ठीक है कटोच देते हैं। हाँ। अच्छा। हाँ। हम्म, चलो अब तो काम चल गया, फिर बाद में देखेंगे। अच्छा, क्या करना है उसमें? चलो ये सब 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 सबने कौन कर लिया, अब तो ज्वाइन। तो अब कहाँ करना, एक बार बताओ। हाँ। हाँ। हाँ, मल्टीपल पार्टिसिपेंट कैन शेयर। कर दिया, कर दिया, कर दिया। कैन यू सी स्लाइड्स मूविंग डियर स्टूडेंट्स?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Sir,
sir.
Lavit
Yes,
our
sir.
end. It is
Okay,
moving,
it
sir.
is fine, Dr. Katoch. Thank you.
Moving, sir.
Good afternoon to all of you. I'm sorry for the disturbance. And now,
Okay, no problem, sir. You are welcome.
do you have any
Most
question?
welcome, sir. More welcome. What about the picture, sir?
Pardon? Hello?
What about the picture, sir?
Picture?
Am I? Yes, sir. Am I audible, sir?
Yeah, you are audible. Now I start my lecture.
Yes, sir.
Now we will have kind of practical on nutrient use efficiency. And friends, nutrient here means you can have any nutrient. As you know, there are 17 essential nutrients for plant growth. One group is carbon, hydrogen, oxygen. They are supplied from air and water. They are called as framework element. They make the main skeleton of the plant, carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, and they are considered as non-mineral nutrient. They are non-mineral nutrients because they are taken up as carbon dioxide and water, H2O. They are not mineralized, they are not broken. Therefore, they are called non-mineral nutrients. Another, say 14 nutrients are also there. 17 minus carbon, hydrogen, oxygen is equal to 14. Those 14 nutrients are called as mineral nutrients because they are taken up in mineral form. In ionic form, they are taken up, therefore they are called mineral nutrients. So these mineral nutrients are supplied to the plant through fertilizers or through manures. Some may not be supplied, some are available in soil, but some are supplied from outside. They can be supplied through through different sources, combination of different sources, which is called as integrated nutrient management. These nutrients should also be supplied in right proportion or right ratio. Therefore, this is called as balanced fertilization. So balanced fertilization and integrated nutrient management strategies should be followed to supply nutrients to the crops. That is the best way. So we know that we want more from each unit of input. Here inputs are organic manures, biofertilizers, or fertilizers that supply the nutrients to the crop. We want more and more output by using less and less input, so that we can have benefit, we can have profit from the nutrient application. So here our objective is to get more yields, more biomass by using less and less nutrient. So that makes your nutrient use efficiency. This can be with respect to any nutrients except carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. So this is just beginning of nutrient use efficiency, the concept, and you will be familiarized with the nutrient use efficiency and what are the factors that affect the nutrient use efficiency, and know the strategies for enhancing the nutrient use efficiency. So in this case, I'll show you how to do some numericals, some exercises, and it will be for 1 hour only. After 1 hour, I'll discuss another practical, which will be on seed, again on seed. So now for next, say 45 minutes, we will discuss nutrient use efficiency. Now you see how to define the nutrient use efficiency. Again, I repeat that this nutrient can be nitrogen, can be phosphorus, can be sulfur, can be any nutrient. So Graham defined nutrient use efficiency of a genotype. Genotype for each element separately. You can calculate separately It is the ability to produce a high yield in soil that is limited in that element for a standard genotype. So if you try to understand this definition, here the nutrient use efficiency may be different for different genotypes, and for different nutrients, it will be different. For example, for nitrogen, nutrient use efficiency is low. For phosphorus, it is further low. For potassium, it may be more than nitrogen. For micronutrient, it is the lowest. So nutrient use efficiency will vary with the nutrient, kind of nutrient we are talking about. All the nutrients, all the 14 nutrients may not have similar kind of nutrient use efficiency. This will vary with the kind of nutrient and also with the genotype, kind of plant you have. And the main thing is that with the lowest quantity, with the less and less amount of nutrients, if you produce more biomass, more yield, then it is higher nutrient use efficiency or capacity of plants to produce biomass, plant biomass or yield per unit of the nutrient applied. That is your nutrient use efficiency. Blair defined nutrient use efficiency as the ability of a genotype to acquire. Acquire means to absorb, to get into the plant system, acquire nutrients from growth medium. Here, growth medium is your soil medium, or to incorporate. Incorporate means to mix it or utilize them in the production of shoot and root biomass or utilizable plant material. So in this definition, you see, there are three important aspects. One is that plant should be able to acquire it, able to get it into itself, that is acquiring the nutrients. Then it should be transported to the different plant parts where it needs to be utilized or incorporated into different cell components at cell level or at tissue level. And finally, it reflects in the improved growth. Overall, I think that this is the best definition for nutrient use efficiency. You can see the nutrient use efficiency can be defined as the maximum economic yield. It is the maximum economic yield produced per unit of nutrient. Here N is for nutrient, it is not for nitrogen. So economic yield produced per unit of nitrogen applied. So here you can see nutrient use efficiency can be with respect to applied nutrient. Means you applied certain amount of nutrient, how much is taken up by the plant. So that is with respect to applied nutrient. Absorbed, how much nutrient has been absorbed from the soil. What proportion is absorbed from the soil. And then how much is used by the plant, how much is utilized by the plant to produce grain and extra. So this grain and extra is your biomass. So this is the best definition, dear students. The nutrient use efficiency can be defined as the maximum economic yield produced per unit of nutrient applied or per unit of nutrient absorbed or utilized by the plant to produce grain and extra or to get the growth. So efficiency of any nutrient can be simply output divided by input. Output is your yield, or input may be with respect to applied nutrient. How much nutrient you have applied or how much nutrient has been taken up by the plant. Nutrient use efficiency, some more definitions you can see. Ratio that considered an output. Output may be in terms of biological yield or economic yield. As the numerator, and input supply, that is nitrogen supply or nutrient supply, is the denominator. Means your output is your biological yield, input is your nitrogen rate or nitrogen or nutrient supply. The biological yield can include either total above ground plant dry matter or total plant nutrient. So this biological yield can be with respect to actual yield, biological yield, or it can be with respect to total nutrient uptake, total uptake of any nutrient. The economic yield includes either grain yield or total grain nitrogen, means nitrogen taken up in grain or yield, economic yield. That is your, so this is with respect to defining the nutrient use efficiency. Here you will get more clarity about different kind of nutrient use efficiency terms here. So now you see, this is ratio actually. The nutrient use efficiency is a ratio of output to input. So you can see output divided by input. So now let us concentrate. We can represent output by several ways, several means. One output can be biological yield. Just biological yield we can take as an output, or we can take economic yield as an output. We can take either of these. And then what is biological yield? It can be defined in two terms. One is above ground biomass. How much is the dry matter? How much is the total biomass of the plant? And it can also be explained based upon the above ground nitrogen, means how much total nitrogen uptake is there in the plant biomass, means nitrogen uptake in grain plus nitrogen uptake in straw. That makes your above ground nitrogen. Similarly, in economic yield, this can be grain yield. Grain biomass is your grain yield, and how much nitrogen is there in the grain. That is grain nitrogen uptake. Here you can say grain nitrogen uptake. So this is how you can put the output. Output can be with respect to biological yield.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes, yes.
At the last PPT, we study nutrients. Here we just specify the nitrogen, grain yield, grain nitrogen, grain biomass,
Here,
above ground nitrogen.
yeah. Actually, it is by mistake that I am saying nitrogen, but it is applicable to all the nutrients. It is applicable to all the nutrients and for nutrient here. Thank you for correcting me, and I accept it.
Thank you, sir.
But and wherever here N is there, I just by mistake I said it is nutrient, nitrogen, but it is actually nutrient. Okay. So suppose you are talking about zinc. So in place of N, you can put zinc. Okay, thank you very much. So here it
Okay,
is
sir.
actually nutrient. Yes. So it is actually nutrient. Now come to the denominator. The part which is above the line is your numerator and divided by your input. Output divided by input. So input can be in different respects, like nitrogen supply. So you know nitrogen can be supplied from soil. If it is supplied from soil, then it means it is control kind of treatment. This again I am saying nitrogen. Here it is nutrient, and nutrient supply from fertilizer. So it will be from fertilizer only. Fertilizer use efficiency and soil plus fertilizer. So the nutrients can be from soil, can be from fertilizer, and can be from soil plus fertilizer. Similarly, nutrient.
Excuse me, sir. Here,
Yeah.
soil is the source for the nutrients.
Exactly.
Sir, it can be input, sir. How can we say inputs? It's come in the input, sir. Soil.
Yeah. Actually, it is input with respect to, because soil will supply some nutrient. Soil will supply some nutrient, and those nutrients are also input. You are putting those nutrients into the plant, therefore they are input. So any nutrient which is contributed by the soil is taken up by the plant. So actually, when we define nutrient use efficiency, there are different ways. In one way, you can deduct the nitrogen or nutrient contributed from the soil from the nutrient use efficiency. I will explain it. Again when we touch that subject. Actually,
Okay, sir.
when we talk of just try to understand here itself. When we talk of nutrient use efficiency of fertilizer. So then we take yield from the fertilizer applied treatment minus yield from the control. So yield from the control means yield from the field or plot from where we have not applied the fertilizer. So here the soil nutrient uptake or nutrient contributed from the soil will be used for control treatment. It will be used for control treatment because here you have not applied fertilizer. So whatever nutrient is coming to the plant, that is contributed only by the soil. Did you get it? And then
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
okay. Then from fertilizer and then soil plus fertilizer. Similarly, for nitrogen uptake, we have uptake can be just from soil. Uptake can be calculated just from the fertilizer, and uptake can be calculated from soil plus fertilizer. So there are different ways of writing the input. I will explain you surely. Now you see here, I can explain it. Agronomic efficiency of nutrient. This N is for nutrient. Biomass divided by nitrogen supply. So biomass can be biological yield. Biological yield can be of two kinds. You see, above ground biomass. So you can take above ground biomass, how much is produced, and you can calculate nutrient use efficiency just for soil. Divide this value with the nitrogen supplied by the soil. How much nitrogen was supplied by the control treatment. So similarly, above ground nitrogen, you can divide it by this one also. Then take the next case, above ground biomass, divide by fertilizer, just by fertilizer. Or you can divide grain biomass just by the fertilizer applied. Here fertilizer applied means the nutrient from fertilizer applied. It is not the quantity of the fertilizer. It is the amount of nutrient that is coming from the fertilizer. Suppose if I say 90 kg nitrogen from fertilizer, so that means it is just coming from fertilizer. And then soil plus fertilizer. So we can divide this value by nutrient uptake from the soil plus fertilizer. So biomass per unit of nitrogen supply, similarly, you will see formula in the next pages. Now for more clarity, you just see the formula here. These are different kind of nutrient use efficiencies, and I have taken nitrogen as an example. So you need to be careful. I am talking about nitrogen now, but you can apply the same formula for any other nutrient like phosphorus, potassium, or zinc, or sulfur, whatever you like. So now first nutrient use efficiency index is PFPN, partial factor productivity of applied nitrogen. This applied nitrogen, kg harvest product per kg of nitrogen applied. So here, what you are doing, partial factor productivity of yield divided by fertilizer nitrogen applied. Now here I want to clear your confusion. Here yield is, whatever yield you are getting here, this is not just because of fertilizer. This yield is coming, nitrogen is contributed here from the fertilizer and also from the soil. Here nitrogen is contributed from fertilizer and also from the soil. So YN means yield divided by fertilizer nitrogen applied, whatever nitrogen. So here contribution of soil is included. So the range of partial factor productivity is 40 to 70 kg grain per kg nitrogen. This is the range. And it can be more than 70 kg per kg of nitrogen if the rate of application is low. As you know, the nutrient use efficiency decreases as you increase the rate of fertilizer application. So partial factor productivity can be as high as 70 or more than 70 kg if the low rates are used and your management is efficient management of the nitrogen. Is it clear now? See Y upon F here.
Yes.
This yield is coming because of fertilizer application plus because of nitrogen coming from the soil. Okay, there are two sources. One is from fertilizer, other is from soil itself. So here the nutrient use efficiency includes nitrogen coming from soil, nitrogen coming from fertilizer. Now see the number 2. Here the case is different. Here there is the contribution of nitrogen or nutrient from soil is omitted. It is Nafi, you know, Nafi, minus Nafi.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Good. Nafi, Jama. So here, agronomic efficiency of nitrogen or nutrient, applied nitrogen, it is kg yield increase per kg nitrogen applied. How much is the increase over the control? That is divided by the rate of application of nitrogen or nutrient. You see the formula, Yn minus Y0 divided by Fn. So Yn is yield from the nitrogen applied or nutrient applied plot minus yield from the control. So you see here the yield from the control is subtracted. So contribution of soil, because in control, nitrogen can come only from one source, that is soil. So here Y0 means nitrogen or nutrient is contributed just by soil. So you deduct it, you subtract it. So Yn minus Y0, yield at nitrogen treated plot minus yield is control divided by fertilizer nitrogen applied. So here the value of AN can range from 10 to 30 kg per grain per kg nitrogen. 10 to 30 kg grain increase. Remember, it is increase per kg nitrogen. So here you can see this is agronomic efficiency of nitrogen. And the data here is given for cereal crops, rice, wheat, and maize. This 40 to 70, 10 to 30 kg. This data pertains to cereal crops, rice, mainly rice and wheat crops. So you can get more than 30 kg agronomic efficiency of applied nitrogen if you have well management, good management practices. Is it okay to everyone?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Now we go for recovery efficiency. So this is actually absorption. This is with respect to absorption of nitrogen or uptake of nitrogen. So you can see recovery efficiency is uptake in nitrogen treated plot. How much nitrogen is taken up by the crop per hectare in kg per hectare in treated plot where you have applied fertilizer minus where you have not applied fertilizer. This is again control and divided by rate of fertilizer application. So recovery efficiency, and then you multiply it by 100. So many times it is multiplied by 100. So then you get recovery efficiency in percentage. It can also be with respect to kg per kg nitrogen, kg grain per kg nitrogen. But it is in percentage. You just consider it that this is in percentage. Forget the last column. Now, physiological efficiency, this is with respect to yield in nitrogen applied plot, nitrogen treated plot, minus yield in control plot, divided by uptake of nitrogen in treated plot, minus uptake in control plot. So this is how you means the yield per kg nitrogen uptake. How much is the yield? So the range is 30 to 60 kg per kg, and value can be as high as 60 or more. So this is how these are four important nitrogen or nutrient use efficiencies which I wanted to discuss. And based upon this, you can make several numericals on this. For example, the rate of application of nitrogen was 40 kg per hectare, and the yield in this treatment was 5 ton per hectare, and yield in control was 2.5 ton per hectare. Calculate the agronomic nitrogen use efficiency. So similarly, several numerical can be designed and you can practice yourself. Anything you want to say here? Any clarification?
Yes.
Is it fine? This is the time.
Yes, sir, it is
Okay,
fine.
sir. Okay, sir.
Sir, it would be okay if we just solve one small
Okay, see.
example, sir.
Thank you. See the data. This is the data relationship between yield response and nutrient use efficiency. So what is happening to nutrient use efficiency in the world? This data. So you can see on x-axis, you have increasing nutrient input. So on x-axis, suppose you are increasing the nitrogen. You are
Here,
increasing
sir, here in this graph, so it shows the critical point that if we increase the fertilizer, it will give the yield will be increases. When our time will come, there is no increasement in the yield.
Yeah, you are right. You are right. First, let me explain it. So this is not actually exact values are not given here. There are no exact value. This is just to make you understand that how the nutrient use efficiency behave if we go on increasing the rate of fertilizer application. So this is in that sense, increasing nutrient input, and it is not mentioning whether this picture is for nitrogen or phosphorus. It is just irrespective of the nutrient, increasing nutrient input and decreasing nutrient use efficiency. So this picture is showing us as we increase the dose of nutrient application, the nutrient use efficiency declines. That is the message. So at lower level of nutrient application, the yield potential, the nutrient use efficiency is high. low yield and highest nutrient use efficiency. But if you go for high yields, the nutrient use efficiency will be lower. So what you can do, you can just draw a line and take the difference. Take the difference of delta y upon delta x. You can do like this, delta y upon. So here, suppose this, you make a straight line here, make a line here. So you can see delta y, this is delta y. Delta y divided by delta x. Change in x. Here also, so your delta x, suppose here, I'm sorry, this is the line. So this is change in x, and this much is change in y. See, change in y is very small, very small. So what we can do, you can see if you remember law of diminishing return, same kind of thing is here. As you go on increasing the doses of fertilizer or nutrients, the nutrient use efficiency decline. It will be more clear now, more clear to you. Now you see the same thing is shown here. In the first column, you have nitrogen rate kg per hectare. So these are the nitrogen rates, 30, 60, 90, and so on. And then agronomic efficiency, change in or increase in grain per kg nitrogen added. How much is the agronomic efficiency? So you can see if you are increasing the rate of fertilizer application, 30, 60, 90, the agronomic efficiency is decreasing. You see, if you have 30 rate, the use efficiency is 35. But if you increase it to 60, it decreases. It decreases. Similarly, physiological efficiency. Initially, it is low, but for the first dose, it is increasing. For second dose also, it is increasing. But then suddenly it starts decreasing. Then you come agrophysiological efficiency, kg grain per kg nitrogen. So here you see it was low, it increased, and then decreases. Apparent recovery of nitrogen, 49, 50, 37, and then it starts to decrease. So all in general, you can see at lower levels, say 30 or 60 level, generally the nutrient use efficiency or nitrogen use efficiency is high. If you increase the level of nitrogen or nutrient, the nutrient use efficiency decreases. That is the message that I want to give you by showing this slide.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. We got it.
Yeah. Now you see the nutrient use efficiency, if you see the recovery of the nutrients, so it is very low. In case of nitrogen, if it is from fertilizers, then it is 30 to 50 kg. If it is from manures, the nitrogen use efficiency is low, 20 to 40%. If it is phosphorus, 15 to 20. If it is potassium, 30 to 40%. If micronutrient, it is very low, 0.5 to 5% in case of micronutrients. So overall, you are seeing that nutrient use efficiency is declining. It is really very low for different elements of different nutrients. So definitely there is loss. There is loss of the nutrients from the soil, and farmers need to pay more money. Now you see how at what level, how this nutrient use efficiency is behaving. So this figure is for nitrogen. You can see trends in the nitrogen fertilization efficiency of crop production, annual global cereal production divided by annual global application of nitrogen. Means at what level, what is happening to nutrient use efficiency. So you see it is decreasing. With the time, at what level, the nitrogen use efficiency in cereal production is decreasing. Now, what are the reasons? What are the reasons for decrease in nutrient use efficiency? Or why we need higher nutrient use efficiency? Why we need higher use efficiency? Or why lower nutrient use efficiency is not good? So first reason is economic reason. So what happens if your recovery of the nutrient is low? That means you need to add more fertilizer. So it will save actually money. If you have higher nutrient use efficiency, it will save the money of the farmer. Environmental condition. Low recovery efficiency means the remaining portion of the nutrients we are losing, and that can cause environmental pollution. Excess urea or nitrogen application results in leaching of nitrogen, denitrification, and volatilization of nitrogen. So by these losses, environmental pollution happens. Pollution of air and pollution of water can happen because of this ammonia volatilization or other kind of losses. Then, of course, there are certain political reasons also why politicians would also like to have higher nutrient use efficiency, because high efficiency will reduce the dependency on the chemical fertilizers and raw materials. You must be knowing that variety of raw materials are needed to produce fertilizer. Lot of energy is consumed for manufacturing of fertilizers. So therefore, that is also causing pollution. Means production of fertilizer itself causes pollution of the environment. And then use of fertilizer also causes pollution of the environment. Then technological reasons are also there. It has been proved that it is possible to enhance the nutrient use efficiency. So there are ways and means, there are methods by which we can increase the nutrient use efficiency. So why shouldn't we do it? Now, friends, let us learn what are the factors that affect the nutrient use efficiency. We should know, if we want to increase the nutrient use efficiency, then we should know the factors which are responsible for increasing or decreasing the decreased nutrient use efficiency. So there are 6 factors you can see here that has been listed. Soil factors, certain soil factors, certain properties of the soil will affect the nutrient use efficiency. The good soil properties will give you better nutrient use efficiency. If your soil properties are not good, if your soil structure is not good, if soil erosion happens, if pH of the soil is not good, if cation exchange capacity of soil is low, then because of these reasons, your nutrient use efficiency of fertilizer or nutrients will be low. There are a number of fertilizer factors that affect the nutrient use efficiency. I will discuss in this detail. So fertilizer factors, you understand the source of fertilizer, the rate of fertilizer, the method of fertilizer application, the time of fertilizer application. These are four things that affect the fertilizer use efficiency. Then there are a number of crop factors. Certain crops and certain varieties are more nutrient use efficient and some are not. Some cultivars need less dose of nutrient, some cultivars need high dose of nutrient. So what are the crop related factors that affect the nutrient use efficiency? We are going to discuss. Then biotic factors are your insect, pest, disease, and weeds. They also adversely affect the nutrient use efficiency. I think being agronomy student, you understand how these biotic factors can reduce the nutrient use efficiency. And if we can manage them, then we can increase the nutrient use efficiency. Climatic factors, your rainfall, temperature, sunshine hours, or light intensity, all these factors affect the nutrient use efficiency. And lastly, you can see agronomic factors. Agronomic factors means agronomic management, cultural practices like right time of sowing, right manure, your optimum depth of sowing, all these cultural practices, spacing will affect the nutrient use efficiency. So in brief, I wish to discuss these factors. So certain soil factors means particularly adverse factor like low soil fertility, salinity or alkalinity. So this salinity, alkalinity or acidity, I think you understand very well. These factors reduce the nutrient availability. And sometimes there may be interaction of factors like phosphorus and zinc. They have interaction. Then low organic matter content. If your soils are very low in organic matter, that means your cation exchange capacity will be low, because organic matter results in improvement in soil colloids. If you know soil colloids, humus, clay minerals and humus are the soil colloids that absorb the nutrients. So cation exchange capacity will be low if your organic matter is low. Poor structure and texture of the soil will also result in reduced nutrient use efficiency. So all these factors will reduce the nutrient use efficiency. So you know these fertilizer factor source, certain source are good.
Yes, sir. For our strategy, it means right amount, right time, right method.
Yeah. You
These
understand
four
it?
things, sir.
You understand it, or should I explain it?
Understand, sir?
Okay, okay. So it is good that you understand. Now, please explain me how the source will affect the nutrient use efficiency. Source of fertilizer will affect the nutrient use efficiency.
Yes, sir. If we apply the organic matter from the source of animal, for example, food manure, its source has the nitrogen, so it affect the soil, and also it affect the biomass of the plant, sir. If we apply the chemical fertilizer, for example, urea, so it will affect the soil criteria. It may affect the soil pH. So the plant cannot absorb more nutrients from the soil. So otherwise, the plant biomass will be affected and decreases.
You are right, Sheer, but you see what is written on the slide. It is not about organic manures. It is about fertilizer factors. So within fertilizer, how the source will affect?
Okay, sir. It means that I will add something, sir. Sir, that we discussed that the factor that affecting nutrient use efficiency. There is a source. It means that when we are applying the fertilizer, if that is DAP, if that is urea, if that is potassium sulfate, it should be from a good source, that it has the good contents of this elements that we want to apply to the source. For example,
Percentage of the quantity.
yes. For example, urea has a 46% of nitrogen. So this urea should be from the good source, that it has exactly this amount of nitrogen, sir.
No, that is not the point, I think. No problem. I'll make you understand. Source, because there is no question of good or bad source. Urea is urea. Urea will contain 46% nitrogen. Now, right source means, for example, you can supply, say, sulfur.
Okay, sir.
Sulfur can be supplied from elemental sulfur, elemental sulfur. And sulfur can also be supplied from gypsum. And gypsum, calcium sulfate, CaSO4.
Okay, sir.
Everybody knows. So the source gypsum is better. Calcium sulfate is better because sulfur is in sulfate form. It can be easily taken up by the plant. If you apply gypsum to the soil to supply sulfur. So because sulfur is in sulfate form, so it can be easily taken up by the crop. But if you supply sulfur from another source, which is elemental sulfur, S power 0, sulfur, yellow color. So actually it may not be good source compared to gypsum because it is elemental sulfur. It is element. So it takes 1 month time to convert this sulfur into sulfate form. So therefore, comparing the elemental sulfur and comparing the gypsum is a better source. Similarly, you can compare phosphatic fertilizer like single superphosphate, DAP, and so on. So single superphosphate is considered as better source than the DAP for phosphorus because this single superphosphate also contains sulfur. So we need to choose. Similarly, in case of rice, ammonium sulfate is better fertilizer than urea because rice prefers directly ammonium form of nitrogen. So that is what I mean to have, say, source of fertilizer. It is within the fertilizer. So we need to choose the right source of the nutrients. Similarly, if you are going for foliar spray, suppose it is iron sulfate or zinc sulfate, then you also have chelated fertilizers. So chelated fertilizers have more efficiency. Chelated iron, chelated zinc, or chelated micronutrients are better than the sulfates. Similarly, you have zinc oxide and zinc sulfate. These are two zinc fertilizer, but zinc sulfate is better because to supply the zinc, because zinc sulfate can easily break down into zinc and sulfate, and crop can take up zinc very easily. But if you see zinc oxide is insoluble in water. Zinc sulfate is soluble in water, so it is easily available to the plant. But zinc oxide, which contains about 81% zinc, 81% zinc, very high content of zinc. And zinc sulfate contains only 21% of zinc. But zinc sulfate is preferred source of zinc because it is soluble in water, it is easily available to the plant. But zinc oxide is insoluble in water. It takes many months to solubilize zinc oxide. So that is what I mean. Source for one particular nutrient, we need to see that this source should be the good source that can supply the required amount of nutrients. Similarly, rate of application should be the optimum rate of application. Method and time of application are more or less same. So mostly the fertilizers, P and K fertilizer should be applied basal application, and urea should be applied in 2 to 3 split application. 2 to 3 times urea should be applied. So this is fine now. Now, besides the soil factor.
So the type of fertilizer can also affect.
Hello. Yes.
Hello, sir.
Yes, please speak.
No question, sir.
About type of.
No, Sheer is asking something. Sheer,
Yes, sir.
No, sir. No, sir. I don't ask, sir.
Fine. Now we see crop factors. So you can see some crops can utilize particular nutrient in a better way than other crops. Similarly, some varieties are more use efficient than other varieties. So in this case, you can see agronomic efficiency, kg grain increase per kg nitrogen applied. So it depends upon crops under identical conditions. Under similar conditions, you can see the nutrient use efficiency of maize is higher. Maize is higher than rice and wheat. So you can see this data is from the world average. So you can say maize has better nutrient use efficiency, nitrogen use efficiency than the rice and wheat. Because of its nature, it is C4 plant. Maize is a C4 plant which has higher nutrient use efficiency, higher water use efficiency, and higher photosynthesis efficiency.
Excuse me, sir. Excuse me.
Yeah.
Excuse me, sir. What is included in the nature? For example, the nature of the plants that they absorb more nutrients from the soil and give more output to farmers. Sir.
Excellent.
For example, their root system, their plant xylem, phloem, or the water holding capacity. What is included here?
Exactly. This is scientific question. This is excellent question. And Sheer, I was about to come to the answer, and I appreciate you could not have patience, but I still appreciate that you are listening me carefully. So he's asking friends that why certain crops, certain varieties are more efficient than other. What is there in them that they are efficient user of particular nutrient? So main differences exist in the root architecture. Main differences exist in the root architecture, means certain varieties, genotypes, or crops have very finer roots and long roots. Their spread, there are 3-4 kind of spreading of root. Friends, there are 4 kind of spreading mechanism in the root. First is shallow spreading root kind of root, and another is deep spreading. In shallow spreading, there may be compact. There may be compact. Compact means they occupy very less area. In deep spreading, there may be uniform spreading throughout the profile. So the distribution of root is very, very important. Means the distribution of root should be in such a fashion that it occupies more soil volume and it spreads to more area of the soil. Means wider spread compared to narrow or compact spread of the root. So main thing is root architecture. And second important point is the rhizodeposition. Rhizodeposition means root exudation. Root exudation means plant roots also release some compounds into the soil, and those compounds can solubilize the insoluble nutrient. Suppose iron, some genotypes may be iron use efficient. So what iron use efficient genotype do? If your soil is alkaline, and you know iron availability is more when your soil is acidic in nature. So what this plant root will do, under alkaline conditions, these root will release some acids, and these acids will lower the pH of the soil. These acids will lower the pH of the soil, and that way the availability of iron will increase. So root means they are making, they're helping themselves. So such kind of roots help themselves to take more nutrients. So I'm coming to that point here. It was just introduction and very good question asked by you. So now I am showing why certain genotypes are efficient. Or in the morning, I have already discussed you about grain yield efficiency index. So no need to repeat it now. Now, what he's asking, his answer is here. What Sheer has asked, his answer is here, Sheer, see it. Why certain genotypes are nutrient use efficient? Why there is higher nutrient use efficiency in certain genotypes or certain crops? So these are the differences in root morphological factors like number, more root number, more root length, root hair density. Means the root hair are more in number, and this happens in different varieties. Root extension, how it is, and root density. Root density here means root length per cubic centimeter soil. Root length in centimeter per cubic centimeter soil, because soil can be expressed in volume per cubic centimeter. Then root to shoot ratio is also important. Certain crops and certain plant may have more higher root to shoot ratio. If your roots are higher, ratio is bigger, that means your roots are more efficient. Certain genotypes can have better root system, better root to shoot ratio, and also mycorrhizal fungi. Friends, these mycorrhiza are very, very important. These mycorrhiza are of two types, ectomycorrhiza, endomycorrhiza. Endomycorrhiza are generally called as AM fungi. AM fungi, arbuscular, what is the name? Arbuscular
micro
yeah, AM fungi, arbuscular mycorrhiza fungi.
Mycorrhiza fungi, yes.
Yeah, so what is happening? These AM fungi, they have very interesting association with the plants, and they are acting as a network. They act as a bridge between two plants, particularly dissimilar plant. Suppose you have intercropping of maize and cowpea. So what happens? Root of maize and cowpea will be connected to each other. They will be connected to each other through the mycorrhizal hyphae, through the AM fungi. And these AM fungi are connected, and the legume can transfer at least 50% of the nitrogen fixed by it to the cereal partner. So that way these mycorrhiza are very, very important in the uptake of the nutrients. They increase the absorption area. The more nutrients can be absorbed if you have mycorrhiza around the roots. And then mycorrhiza also solubilize certain nutrients which are fixed in the soil. So they increase the solubility of certain nutrients, particularly phosphorus, which is called as mobilization of phosphorus. Mobilization of phosphorus means they make phosphorus available. So this mycorrhiza has variety of rows, and they have arbuscular structure. Arbuscules, they are called as arbuscule, which enter the host cell. Suppose host is your legume plant or cereal plant, whatsoever. So these mycorrhizal structure, which is arbuscule enter the plant cells, and from there they exchange the material. Fungus or mycorrhiza will get carbohydrates because this is symbiotic association. So mycorrhiza will get carbohydrate or energy from the host plant, and it will give back to the host plant the nutrients. And by now, many students consider that it is only phosphorus which is taken up by mycorrhiza and supplied to the host plant. But here I want to tell you
شو لك
ولاك आवाज ولاړی.
Maybe there would be some technical problems.
who is host
Himself.
So now Sheen has asked the question answer lies means why certain genotypes are nutrient use absent and why. So in this case, I was discussing about the root morphological features are important. The differences in root morphological features or factors make the difference in genotypes, whether they will be use efficient or not. Root shoot ratio I just discussed, and I was talking about rhizodeposition, means certain enzyme secretions as phosphate, chelating compounds. Chelating compounds are the compounds which keep the nutrient in available form. They will keep the nutrients in available form, and certain phytosidrophores. They are also important organic acid and production. So these environment, they change, they improve the rhizospheric environment, which increases the availability of the nutrient as well as uptake of the nutrients. Metabolism is at reduced tissue concentration of nutrient, and lower element concentration in supporting structure, particularly the stem. So what they means, whatever little they get, they make best use of it. They make best use of it. Even at lower concentration of certain nutrient, they will not suffer from the deficiency. They have some internal mechanism, so that they become nutrient use efficient. So now we go to the biotic factors that can affect the nutrient use efficiency. And we got beneficial microbes. They will increase the efficiency like PGPR. PGPR, what is PGPR? You remember? PGPR, plant growth promoting rhizobacteria. And those are beneficial microbes, and weeds and insect pest disease. They reduce the nutrient use efficiency. So they should be controlled. Climatic factors, you know, the role of temperature. The role
sir, I just have a question there.
Hello?
Sir, I just have a question there. What's the difference between bifur?
What is the difference between? Could you repeat your question? I could not hear. Your voice was broken. Yes, please speak. Anybody else can tell me his question?
His
Sorry, we
internet
also
has a
didn't hear
problem.
his voice because he is not audible.
Okay, no problem. He can ask again. So now we go to climatic factors like temperature. Temperature can affect the availability of the nutrient. So it is not directly affecting the nutrient use efficiency. It is indirectly affecting the nutrient use efficiency by affecting the nutrient availability. You know, if temperatures are low, the activity of microbes and decomposition rates slows down. If you increase the temperature, then nutrient use efficiency will increase. But there is some limit. If you exceed the temperature, then there may not be higher nutrient use efficiency. Similarly, solar radiation or the photosynthesis. More photosynthesis means higher nutrient use efficiency. Less photosynthesis, less nutrient use efficiency. So light intensity has a role. Similarly, rainfall, water. Water has to be at optimum level. Too little or too high, water will decrease the nutrient use efficiency. If you do not have sufficient water, then the nutrient use efficiency will be low. You see, in dryland conditions, in rain-fed areas, the nutrient application rates are low or less compared to areas where you get irrigation or high rainfall areas. You can use more nutrients.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes, please.
In some time when we sowing, sir, zira. Do you know zira, sir?
Cumin.
Yes,
Cumin, sir, cumin. Yeah, in that condition, this plant doesn't want more water. So, but they give a good result if we apply the nutrients, sir.
just to say it again, please. Say it again, repeat it. Yeah.
Sir, I mean that if we compare two plant, for example, cumin, sir, with the maize crop. In the maize crop we are applying more irrigation, but in the cumin or zira we do not apply more water or more irrigation, but we are applying nutrients on them, both of them. But the cumin give much more result than the maize, sir. It means that they absorb more nutrients from the soil.
Actually, I think maize, the requirement of the nutrient is also different. The cumin, for cumin, it will be very small requirement of nutrient compared to maize. In maize, it is high. And also, we cannot compare dissimilar crops. See, cumin belong to different family. The height is different. The nature is different. And the nature.
Okay, sir. Okay, okay, sir. I got that.
Let me complete it. And maize has got different mechanism. But in some example, we can compare rice and wheat because they are just brother sister. We can compare even maize, but we can compare the similar kind of plants which have almost similar kind of nutrient requirement. In maize, rice, wheat, normally we suggest 120 to 150 kg nitrogen. So their nutrient requirements are almost similar. So it is not wise to control cumin with maize. So these climatic
Okay, sir. Thank you.
So whatever climatic factors are there, they will affect the nutrient use efficiency. If they are favorable, you will get higher nutrient use efficiency. If they are not, प्यारा सिंह पानी ले हो Sanjay, पानी. Now you see agronomic factors, they will also affect. So friends, in brief, I wish to tell you that nutrient use efficiency is output divided by input. Output can be your biomass, can be your economic yield, and can be your nutrient uptake also. And your input can be your rate of fertilizer application. It can be your nutrient uptake also. Sometimes it can be nutrient uptake also, like in case of physiological efficiency. So our purpose is to reduce the denominator, reduce the input and increase the biomass, increase the output. So all the agronomic practices, they increase the biomass. So therefore, if they increase the biomass, right time of sowing, right spacing, and all these cultural practices, if they favor the biomass growth, the economic yield, more economic yield, our nutrient use efficiency will be high. For example, in fertilizer factors, our job is to produce more with less fertilizer. So in that case, we want to reduce the dose of fertilizer. So either we can reduce the dose of input if we want more fertilizer use efficiency, more nutrient use efficiency, or we can increase the numerator, the biomass. So then all these agronomic practices, they will help in increasing the biomass and decreasing the input. So they are all important because you are agronomy people. You can understand it better. So reasons for low nutrient use efficiency, continuous use of fertilizer nitrogen alone, continuous practice of, so you please go through all these factors, inadequate availability of appropriate kind of fertilizer. These are all agronomic factors. I hope you understand these factors very well. And what can be done for agronomic management, proper land preparation. So all these agronomic practices. And then in the end, I gave you points to remember about nitrogen. Like cereals need more nitrogen than legume. These are very important points you can remember. Only 50% fertilizer nitrogen applied to crops is utilized. Nitrogen is lost by different mechanism, and it also leaches down and so on. What can be done to improve nitrogen use efficiency? Go for a split application of fertilizer. Use legumes also, grow legumes and green manure. Increase organic matter content in the soil and use some efficient fertilizer, biofertilizer also. Similarly, for phosphatic fertilizer or phosphorus what can we do? Then for potassium fertilizers and general remarks about NPK. And you also know the role of balanced fertilization, which is very, very important for increasing the nutrient use efficiency. Balanced fertilization and INM. I started here. So you can see the role of balanced fertilization in this table. Now you see there are different crops: rice, wheat, palm millet, maize, sorghum, sugarcane. So these crops belong to almost same, not almost, exactly to the same family. And their nature of growth is also quite similar, except sugarcane. And you can see the yields of rice or wheat are more, you can see. Control yield means here you have not used any fertilizer. But next is nitrogen applied, 40, 40, 40. The rate of application of nitrogen is same. If you apply just nitrogen, this is the yield. But if you combine nitrogen with phosphorus and potassium, yield increases very high. So you can see the balanced fertilization means nitrogen should not be applied alone. It should be applied with phosphorus and potassium, and then it increases the agronomic efficiency of nutrients. So friends, this ends here, and I've sent you this presentation also.
Okay, sir. I received, sir.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, sir.
So now I'll deal with, can we break for 5 minutes and then we join again? Okay,
Okay, sir.
this lecture is up to 5. So
Okay.
let me break for 5 minutes and then exactly after 5 minutes, please join.
Okay, sir.
Okay.
Okay, sir.